Hi, I'm Mindy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my last wrap-up video for February fantasy stories. And week 4 was all about reading urban fantasy. I read 2 books for urban fantasy week, and I have had so much fun reading short fantasy works this month. It has made me even more excited to read more and more fantasy, and I can't really ask for anything more than that. So the 2 urban fantasy books that I read this week were, first one is Something from the Night Side by Simon R. Green. This is the first book in a series. It's following a detective who is half human, half something else, and it never really says, I don't think, but John Taylor, and he is a struggling private investigator with a special gift of finding things. He can find lost things, and he gets a case from a woman looking for her runaway daughter. No one can find her, and someone gives her John Taylor's name as being able to find things that nobody else can, and they track the daughter down to a place in the city called the Night Side, which is like a part of the city that people don't really know about, don't really go to, and is really dark, mysterious, magical. The first part of this book is rooted very much in reality, a real city, and then the Night Side is very, very different and very magical. I really enjoyed this story. There were a few really surprising parts of elements that they would include in an urban fantasy that I'd never seen before. Overall, I really enjoyed reading this one, gave it 4 stars. And I also read another urban fantasy book that was unlike any that I had ever read before. This one was called Corbin, which is book 1 in the Kruger series by Devin Lee. And Devin used to have a booktube channel. It has been inactive for a while, and I've had this book for a long time, and I'm really glad that I finally got to read it because it has the greatest premise, and I knew I had to check it out. This book follows a group of kids that are being hunted by something supernatural in their dreams. It seemed like a bit of a love letter to Nightmare on Elm Street, as well as some other slashers that were mentioned. Also 90s video games get a bit of a shout out. It was a lot of fun for a horror fan and a 90s kid. It was so fun to watch follow these kids as they try to combat something while they're sleeping. And there's also a journalist for a magazine that posts strange stories like Bigfoot and that kind of thing. And she wrote a story on these creatures killing people in their dreams, and the kids find that article and get a hold of the woman and ask for her help in their situation. So this dream thing is a bigger problem than they realize. It's not just their friends, it's happened before, it's happening more, and it kind of leaves it open for more books and more big bads that are in dreams. And I really enjoyed this one as well. It was self-published, and there were some editing errors. It wasn't tons and tons. I could probably count them all on 2 hands, but if that's something that bothers you. Something to know about, but man, was it a good story. Really good one for horror fans, too. Urban fantasy for a horror fan. I guess it was made for me. So that is what I read for Urban Fantasy Week. I would say overall, my favorite week was Dark Fantasy. I loved everything that I read last week for Dark Fantasy, and the anthology was 5 stars. It was fantastic. And I definitely am excited to read more dark fantasy and grimdark stories. And that's what I learned about myself. I already knew that I liked dark things and that I liked urban fantasy, but it wasn't my favorite. Yeah, but I read a lot of great books this month, and I'm glad that I got to co-host this with the Bookish Bryants and all the other great co-hosts. I'm going to link all their channels down below one more time. Check them out if you haven't already. If you read any great fantasy books in February, I'd love to hear about them down in the comments. What was your favorite? And if not, what's your favorite fantasy book that you've ever read? I'd love to know that too. And I will be back very soon with another book-related video. Thanks. Bye.